The scrimmage was inconsistent. It was very inconsistent. Had a bunch of drops offensively. Held out a bunch of guys, a bunch of skill guys, veteran skill guys for nicks and dings. Nothing long term, but an opportunity for a bunch of guys, backups that to make plays, and unfortunately didn't make a lot of those. Had some assignment busts, growth things probably more than anything. Turned the ball over 4 times. Had a fumble and 3 picks. One was right at the end in a kind of a no-huddle clutch situation. But we had a bunch of situational things, just end of halves, timing, down and distance, all the things that we try to emphasize with the quarterback and trying to get all those young guys a bunch of reps. Defensively, really good at times, not very good at times, and so probably a typical first scrimmage in that both sides had some fireworks, and both sides have a ton of stuff to repair.
To see separation at quarterback?
There's been a little bit of separation, nothing drastic yet at this point, but Dakota's been the most consistent so far, and then kind of everybody else has had their moments, but yeah, nothing to report there. Yeah.
What do you kind of expect with Dakota having the experience of just playing and FCS football, even if it's not FBS, that he may be a little bit ahead of?
Yes and no. I mean, some guys, that whether it's guys that have been here or redshirt freshmen, there's been guys that have beat out presumed or assumed incumbents, and so we'll let that play out.
Did you feel that, given Prukop's kind of piggybacking off that experience, that Johnson was going to have to maybe prove a little more in camp to win the number 1 spot?
No, I mean, I think the best guy's going to play, and so those guys have to kind of step up and just present their best deal, and we can work around the most consistent guy and whatever his strengths are. We can work our offense and tailor our offense to that guy, and so whoever that is and ends up to be, will adjust. But yeah, I don't think it's a matter of, certainly it's a matter of proving himself relative to everybody else. Yeah.
So I guess Prukop's been a little more consistent if he's separated himself slightly. In the first week or so, were there swings on a given day of who was maybe a step ahead?
There were swings. No, I don't know. I don't know. No, he's been the most consistent thus far, no doubt about that. But I don't know the ratio and the swing.
You mentioned you were going to hit your ideal date of starting quarterback when you're going to name one.
Don't know. I don't have an ideal date, but I think, don't know.
You mentioned that there were some turnovers. Were those quarterbacks making mistakes, or were those guys on defense just making plays and when they had the opportunity?
I think the fumble was kind of unforced. It's one of those deals where we just didn't secure the ball to what we preach and teach. But at the same time, there's some defensive guys there hustling and making the play. And then all 3 of the picks were on the offense, some form or fashion. At the top of the route, one ball got tipped, and so that's 100% on the offense.
From spring to now, what have you seen from Henry Mondo in terms of leadership and becoming the staple along the defensive line?
Yeah, Henry's a guy that just needs to be a high motor, consistent guy, and he has been that, with really one exception that I called him out on the other day, and he owned up to it immediately, which is Henry, and we need him to really anchor that group. We do have a bunch of young guys that I think are going to continue to rise, and some inexperienced guys in. A guy like TJ Daniel, who's an older guy but hasn't played a ton. He needs to really anchor those guys.
How do you feel about the O-line's performance, especially Hansen?
Especially who?
Hansen.
Without totally seeing the film, I thought he played okay. And I think they, for the most part, did okay. It was a lot of the young guys with some interesting protection calls and checks that we've never done before. But then we had some snap issues with the young guys, and that set back the offense a few times as well.
Has Jake progressed enough, though, to where you'll be comfortable with him as a center?
Absolutely. No, Jake's been fantastic throughout camp, and have unlimited confidence in him. Yeah.
How much freedom does Coach Lubick have to kind of tinker with the offense versus when you have like Brady, who's an outside defensive coordinator who came in and kind of switched the whole thing?
Yeah, I think our offense. There's been a percentage. I don't know what that is that has transformed, transitioned, whatever the right word is, every year for the past. I don't know how long I've been here now, but that time, and that's normal. Just of you've got certainly the quarterback makes that the biggest adjustments are made due to the quarterback, and then it's one year you have more tailbacks than wideouts or vice versa or tight ends, and so I think we've gone through that just kind of normal off season of, hey, we need to keep pushing the envelope with who we have, a little bit of adjusting of who we have, and then certainly with David Yost being new, there's some newness that way as well.
Is it a little bit more of a collaborative effort with you because you have that offensive background versus, or like?
It's always been a collaborative effort going back to, I don't know who, Don Reed probably, it's always been a collaborative effort offensively.
How would you summarize your tackling? Hoke and a couple defenders said during spring ball and then the first couple of days of camp, you guys did a really big emphasis on form tackling and angles. How did they do in the scrimmage today?
Okay, we missed a bunch of open field tackles, but that's one of those things where if Taj Griffin makes a guy miss, that's one for the O and one for the D, or one to work on for the D. Royce and Charles and several of those other guys didn't practice, and so there's that element too. So our tackling better, it should be better.
You said the defense wasn't great at times. Was that all the missed tackles, or are they still lining up in the wrong spot on certain plays?
Well, we had 2 one-play drives for touchdowns, which again, is good if you're on the offense. And I need to celebrate who wins more in practice because I'm just in a bad mood. And so that's a combination of things. The offense making a play, the defense not being ready totally. We got the ball behind us in an end of half situation that should never happen. Just awareness of, hey, there's 10 seconds on the clock and they have to throw the ball into the end zone. Those types of things.
How do you judge the good and the bad when it's your own guys going against each other? You stalemate?
Stalemates are good. If it's like a tennis match and it's back and forth and it's physical and fast, that's a good thing. We're not to that point yet. But yeah, watching the film and knowing what should happen and what is actually happening.
The guys who've been here, freshmen for January or even spring ball, there's an assumption that they're ahead of the curve. But are those guys, those 9 guys, whatever, where you would like them to be having had that head start?
Gosh, I'm gonna have to go back to some of them, yes. Some of them have done really well, extremely well. Those linebackers are learning really quickly. The offensive linemen are and some of those guys are red shirts, have learned very quickly as well. So I think after this next week, we'll really be able to make determinations on whoever, Troy Dye, I'm going to forget some, Eric Briscoe, all that crew of guys, after they get through this first scrimmage into the next kind of chunk of install in every phase, and just seeing how they continue to develop will determine whether or not they play.
Was that team meeting yesterday the best team meeting you guys have had?
We had a rough team meeting due to the 9% chance of rain in Rio yesterday. That's interesting weather people. 9% chance of rain yesterday.
How much fun has that been for this team to watch, though?
Oh, it was awesome. It was cool just to hear the guys talking and bouncing around yesterday. Excited for Devin and can't wait to watch him tonight.
He said that he had the jitters from. They felt the same as the Rose Bowl game. Do you think he can draw from having played in big stuff like that when he's down?
Absolutely. Competition is competition, and a guy like him that has been at that level in multiple disciplines, that it has to help. And he's an elite competitor in anything.
You always talk about how he's never lost a big race. That goes to that elite competitor. Is he maybe one of the more elite competitors you've ever had for coach?
He's definitely a guy, right up there with guys that there's some guys that there's whatever it is, whether you're playing ping pong with a second grader or it's, the third series of a 7-on-7 drill in the spring, and they're not going to lose and they're going to, give you their absolute best. I know he's going to perform to the ultimate plus a little bit of his ability. That's just who he is. Thanks.
Thanks, Coach.